Hello, hello, hello. Just gonna wait a few minutes for people to start showing up. Hello, how are you? Just gonna wait a few minutes for people to start showing up. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm just gonna wait a few minutes for people to start showing up. Hi, hi. Hello, hello, everyone. Hola. Wait, how are you guys? Hello, hello, hello. You guys are popping up. All right. Gonna wait a few minutes just to wait for people to start showing up so I don't have to repeat myself. Hello. Hi, everyone. Well, good afternoon. Shout out to Logan Roy. Alrighty. Gonna wait a few minutes. Wait a few minutes. How's everyone doing today before we get started? Hi. Oh, I love you too. Oh, I'm sorry you're having a panic attack. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. All right. Gonna wait a minute. All right, it's been a minute and 31 seconds. We're gonna wait until 3 minutes to really get started. Here we are. Oh, happy birthday. That's Jackson. Happy birthday. Buenos tardes. I'm doing well. I'm doing great. Oh, I'm sorry you have to go to work. At least it'll be saved so you can watch it later. Oh, my babies are doing well. All right. Okay, okay. We're gonna wait until we get to 3 minutes. It's only 2:11. I'm enjoying my summer very much, thank you, as I am not at work right now. All right, we're getting started soon. Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. I'm just waiting a few minutes to get started. We're gonna start at 3 minutes. All right. All right, all right, all right. We are getting started in a second. Do 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 do. Aw, I'm happy you picked up a rescue baby. They make the best babies. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna go back up. Somebody asked the questions. Um, What's your favorite thing to feed your animals? Well, I have like a whole care guide on my Facebook group, Lizard Guru Reptiles Lovers group. And my favorite thing for salads are collard greens, butternut squash, and spaghetti squash. Of course, they like other things too. But bugs wise, I breed my own dubia roaches. I love feeding them dubias because they don't have that smell if you take care of them properly, and they aren't prone to eating their partners like crickets are. So, and also crickets bite, so I don't really like those too much, but they are okay to feed. I also really like feeding hornworms because they are great for getting water into them. Okay. Oh, thanks so much. My beardies are doing great. Thanks for asking. What's the best way to save pre-made salads if you're going to vacation? I'm going away for a week with a person to come over to take care of them. So there are a few things that definitely save greens and make them last longer. You want to make sure that you have a good fridge because I had a fridge in my old apartment that would leak and it would make things expire quicker than they needed to. So make sure your fridge is good. Make sure that you don't have a lot of moisture. Like if your leaves are wet and you're putting them in a bag or something like that, they are going to get old really, really quickly. So make sure you don't have a lot of moisture in the bag and make sure they are sealed properly. And something that I've noticed is to not put, I don't really like making pre-made salads because you have things with moisture in them. Like for example, bell peppers, if you put them in the greens and stuff, they're gonna expire quicker. And don't freeze them. Please don't ever freeze them because it saps the nutrients right out of them. Hey there! My bearded dragons are doing great. Thanks for asking. In Canada, dubias are illegal. What is the best substitute in your opinion? I have actually heard of this. Some people can't get dubia roaches, but there are plenty of other types of roaches that you can get. Red runners, discoid roaches, stuff like that. If you can't have roaches at all, they don't need roaches in their diet. You can feed them plenty of other things. Like, for example, I have no access to locusts to feed them that, like large grasshoppers and stuff like that, but they can eat those. So there are other bugs that they can eat. Um, Everyone wants to try to feed superworms as a staple. This is a treat, not a staple. Just remember that. All right. What is what are fruits that bearded dragons can eat? They really love watermelon, but before I list all of these out, fruits should only be a small little part of their diet. Usually I use it for a treat type of thing. I feed it separately from the salad because if I put it in the salad, then that's all they're gonna eat. So be sure that you watch that and are mindful of that. My babies really, 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 really love watermelon. They love grapes. Honestly, those are the main ones right there, I'll be honest. Other ones, I don't really feed a lot of fruit. Um, but yeah, those are the main ones that my babies like. Um, Our black soldier BSFL, black soldier fly larva, is a good staple feeder for a juvenile berry. These are great for any dragon. They have lots of calcium in them, which means you do not have to dust them with any type of supplement. Um, but if you have like if you're feeding them all the time, just be sure that you know the calcium ratios because there is such thing as too much calcium. So these are great for them as a staple. I would just do it instead of feeding it every single day. I would feed it every other day to like every 3 days or so, something like that. But they are great for them. Are pinky mice good for beardies? Pinky mice specifically, not fuzzies and not mice, like full grown mice. Pinkies are great for them, but I wouldn't feed them every day. This is something like a treat every once every like 2 weeks or once every month or so. Usually these are fed for bearded dragons that are gravid, so females that are egg bearing, to give them extra nutrients and protein. So that's usually what it is. My babies, they don't like them. I don't know what it is. I tried it once and they spit it right out. They did not like it, so some of them may not like it. You got to know their preferences. Where's the best place to get a bearded dragon at? Honestly, I feel like you should definitely look into the bearded dragons before you get them. If you're getting them from a store, be sure you go there first one time, kind of look at them, look at the care that they're giving them, and see if it's really the best fit. Because sometimes people end up picking up really sick and ill dragons from stores, and the store has no idea how to care for them. So honestly, my um, all of my babies are rescues. So I really love rescues. They weren't in the best shape when I got them, but I also know how to get them up to health. So rescues make great pets, but if you really want to have a very healthy pet, breeders are usually, and reputable breeders are one of the best places to get them from, honestly. Um, How do you tell if your bearded dragon has stuck shed on their back? The rest of him is pretty yellow, but his back has been slightly darker for a long time, but don't know if I'm still over worrying. Stuck shed usually it's like usually really, really hard and discolored. So what you're looking at, a full shed process usually takes about a month. People think it's super quick, but it usually takes about a month. Now, when you're coming to juveniles, those guys, they shed like crazy and they do like full sheds because they're growing everywhere. If you're looking at an adult that's shedding, they shed like one place at a time usually because they're full grown. They're not really going to grow anyplace else, but they still got to get rid of the dead skin. So stuck shed, really, you really, 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 really want to watch around their toes and around their tail, because if you have stuck shed around there, it can actually you might have to amputate that area if it gets too tight, or if it's especially on juveniles. This is more of a problem for juveniles, but you still want to be mindful of it. My birdie loves blueberries and bright bell peppers as treats. These are great to feed, just don't feed them all the time. Definitely as treats, like you said. All right. How can I make my beardy bigger? He's growing quite slow, but is really healthy. So, some bearded dragons are actually smaller than others. Like, if you've ever heard of a Rankin's dragon, they're really tiny. They're not going to get up to like full growth compared to, you know, another bearded, like a regular, I don't want to say regular, but an average bearded dragon that's sold in stores. They're not going to get to that size. And some of them grow at different paces. So I wouldn't really worry about it too much. Just make sure that you're giving them the proper diet with protein, you're giving them their supplements, and you have the proper lighting and substrate and husbandry. And you should be fine. Do mealworms eat beardy insides? That's really debatable. I don't like, I say you should not feed mealworms at all because they can cause impaction because of the shells compared to a superworm, for example. Mealworms have more shell to meat ratio, meat being their insides, and superworms have more meat to shell ratio. So I say superworms are okay as a treat, whereas mealworms are not okay ever. Because I've actually had a beardy pass away from this, from eating it and all the chili. They just can't digest it. So sometimes you'll even see beardies pass them in their poo when they're not fully digested because they have such a hard time digesting the chitlin, which is their shell. So I wouldn't feed these at all, and they're not that nutritious for them at all. How do you feel about nighttime heat bulbs? You should not have any heat bulbs on at night. If your temperature is below 65 degrees Fahrenheit, then you should have a CHE bulb, which is a ceramic heat emitter. And that just produces heat and no light. So it doesn't disturb their sleeping patterns, doesn't, do anything like that. So that's what you should use only if you have your temperature is below 65 degrees Fahrenheit. What age is ideal for me to get a beardy? If you're talking about yourself, um, it really depends. So if you are young, like in elementary school, middle school, stuff like that, even high school sometimes, usually the parents are kind of like doing the care with you, teaching you type of thing, but you want to make sure that your parents are going to be okay to care for them as well. I'm not saying like, kids are incapable and stuff, but as a kid, I was really forgetful, and there was no way in elementary school that I could have taken care of a bearded dragon by myself. So I would have had to make sure that my parents were willing to take and assume some of the responsibility. I'm wondering, would you say it's still mating season for boy bearded dragons? My dragon's been head bobbing like crazy. He's 3 years old and never been around another beardy. Yes, it is mating season. My rescue male dragon is actually going through it now. He just gets all bobby and stompy randomly, like it's just out of nowhere. Even if I let him out and roam around on the floor, he'll just start going through it and he's looking for the females. I'm sorry about that. I have no idea what happened. My phone just went. Um, but yes, it is mating season. I'm sorry about that, guys. Okay, let's go up. When should I expect my bearded dragon to go into brumation? This usually happens around winter, but it can happen any time of the year. I have seen some bearded dragons go into brumation when it's in the summer, like around now. And sometimes it actually depends on what your air conditioning is doing because you can actually send your bearded dragon in to brumation unintentionally because your air conditioning is so high and just really cold for them. So you want to make sure that you are watching the temps and everything like that, but sometimes they can just go into brumation any time of the year. I also have good brumation videos on this. All right. Thanks so much, Jazzy. Why does my bearded dragon stay under his heat bulb all day? He never moves from that spot. Well, bearded dragons are really, really lazy naturally. They don't really, what I like to say is they're the masters of chill. They don't exactly move around a lot like Nixie, My Nyx, my sweet girl, my rescue baby, sometimes she'll only move like 3 times in a day. Like I've seen it happen. So sometimes I gotta like get her out loving or something. She'll start moving around more. But it could also be the fact that your heating is not right and your temp is not right. So they don't want to move and they're not active because the heating in the tank is not correct and it's not warm enough. Because bearded dragons, when it's not warm enough, they're not gonna move at all because they don't have the energy and they're like nothing is warmed up, you know? All right. My beardie is going through shed and he just finished his tail. I was wondering how to get his body and head started, or should I just wait? You can't get their shed started, honestly. This is something that you just have to wait for it to happen. Um, yeah, you can't really get their shed started for them. At what length do you think it is good to get a larger tank for a juvenile bearded dragon? Um, It okay. So the bare minimum size tank for an adult bearded dragon is a 40-gallon breeder. Not a 40-gallon because there's a real narrow, but a 40-gallon breeder, which is wider. And that is the bare minimum for an adult dragon. Some people start their juveniles in this tank, some don't. So I don't really look at lengths, I look at age. So if they're around 2 years to a year, I would, and you're lower than a 40-gallon tank, then I would go ahead and move them to at least a 40-gallon. They are always happier in bigger tanks though. There are exceptions though, because my little girl Nyx, I had her in a 75-gallon and she would scratch all the time. So I moved her to a 40-gallon breeder and she has not scratched, glass surfed, any of it. So I'm not going to move her to a bigger tank unless she shows signs of stress. So, and whereas my other one is in a 75-gallon breeder. So it just depends on the dragon. Okay. So all my fish just died and I wanted to ask you if it's a good idea to put my beardie in their 155-gallon tank. Um, Make sure that if you do that, you clean it. I mean, really clean it, okay? Um, and then you can use it. A lot of people use fish tanks for their bearded dragons. It's suitable as long as it has the mesh top and all of that, and it can hold the right temps. Then yeah, sure, why not? Just make sure you clean it. Both my babies are in brumation right now, but will wake up and just look at or stare all day. Is this normal? If they're not in brumation if their eyes are open and they're staring. That's not what brumation is. So, I don't know. Message me on my Instagram with pictures of your setup and the baby, and I can help you from there. But it sounds like you might have to go to a herp vet, a specialist. I recently took my beardie to the vet. They administered meds. The vet pulled her beard to make her mouth open. Is that okay? She passed this morning. Usually they don't pull their beard. They stick like a little like thing in between their lips and then kind of turn it sideways to make it open. I'm so sorry that your beardie passed. I am sure that it was not because of the beard thing. It had to have been from whatever the illness was, and I am sorry that that happened to you. I have an 120-gallon tank. The heat is not getting very high. A the heat is not getting very high. I was wondering what wattage to use for it. Um, I say that if you have a big tank like that, they need at least a 150 watt bulb, but you want to make sure that the fixture also can withstand 150 watts because some people buy wattages that are not, or the fixture that cannot withstand that and then ends up burning up or melting the fixture. So make sure you have that. You also want to make sure that your height is not too far away or too close, and they actually have the distance for what you need, for the basking area, the distance for how high or low you need to have it. So just look at that. I just got an orange tiger bearded dragon from Repticon. I've had him for about 6 days now. He's not really opening up to me. How should I get him to feel more comfortable around me? Um, and he's 3 months. So bearded dragons take a while to kind of get used to you, especially if they don't have, especially if they're so young and they haven't been handled a lot. So sometimes they can take up to like a month or a month and a half. It just depends. So what you want to do for right now is let them get settled, let them, get used to their surroundings, and then you can try like gradually holding them. I actually have a whole bonding video on how to bond with your dragon, and I also have another one on what to do when you're bringing your beardy home the first time or whatever. Um, so you just want to like have a schedule. Bearded dragons love schedules and they do better when they know what to expect. So, for example, you go in, you feed them in the morning, you have the lights on, you have a specific time of day like 12:30 or 1 p.m. or something. You go in, hold them for a little bit of time, like in the tank, or over the tank or whatever, and then put them back. And then you do the same thing the next day. And then a few days from then, you increase the length of time that you're holding them. And then you can gradually like take them farther away from the tank type of thing. It's a process. You don't want to stress them out. You just want to make them feel comfortable and you want to make them know that you are not a threat. Hand feeding is another way to get them used to you. If they know that you're the food giver, they are more than likely going to like you. So, stuff like that. And holding and petting and, like, close holds like up here or whatever. They like that. It just takes time. Hi, my question is, my bearded dragon is a baby and he's terrified of us. We can barely pick him up to take him out in order to clean his terrarium. How can we bond with him so he's no longer afraid? What I just went over. I also have a whole bonding video on this as well to look at. Can beardies eat unsalted bacon? No, they cannot. The only thing that your bearded dragon is allowed to eat are insects, leafy green salads, and pinky mice. And pinky mice you should only have occasionally. No type of meat whatsoever. You will make them sick and kill them. I'm thinking of changing the substrate in my beardie's tank. I currently have carpet. What do you think is the best substrate? I actually had carpet for a few years. Make sure you don't have any loose substrate because this can actually kill them and make them very sick or have a lot of medical issues. So I had carpet for a long time, Repti carpet, and then I switched to vinyl, like stick, like peel and stick vinyl and peel and stick laminate for the bottoms of my tanks. But I made sure that the ones I got had texture so the bearded dragons aren't slipping and sliding and splaying their feet because that can cause issues. A lot of people like to use tile, and I haven't used tile simply because it's really heavy. I move around a lot, and that's going to be a lot of weight on the tank. And people have actually cracked their tanks because of how heavy the tile was. And also the small fact of when you have a bunch of little tile slate pieces, if you don't grout them or add cement in the middle, I wouldn't add cement, but if you don't grout them and like fill up the holes in between them, then bearded dragons, when they poo, it can go through the cracks and then you gotta lift them up and you gotta clean under it. And it's just a whole hassle. I don't feel like doing that. And plus, once you grout them or cement them, they're there to stay. It's gonna be really hard to get those out. I just got my bearded dragon yesterday and was wondering how long I should wait until picking him up. I would wait at least a week. So it usually takes a little bit more depending on if they have been handled or not. If they have not been handled, I would give them 2 weeks. If a bearded dragon doesn't go into brumation, is that bad? My belly buns did not go into brumation the first year I had her, I think. Yeah, so it depends. She did end up going into brumation eventually, but I don't think it's the worst thing. Some people try to send their babies into brumation, but it's not the worst thing. So no, it's not the worst thing. But just like be mindful that they might end up going into brumation eventually. How often should the femoral pores be cleaned out? Also, how do you clean them? The femoral pores, you can usually tell if they're clogged, and it's more You have to do it more with males because they have like bigger, more predominant pores. Usually, sometimes that is not always true. Sometimes females have bigger pores and vice versa, whatever. So with these, I usually every time I give them a bath, just give it like a light scrub after it's soaked for a little while, like 10 minutes or so in warm water. Just give it a light scrub with the toothbrush, and usually it does it. However, if you have a rescue, like baby no name, actually, if you watch my rescue rehabilitation videos, that baby had such clogged pores. I mean, that baby had never had their pores cleaned out, and it took quite a few soaks before I could even move them. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer, especially if they've never been cleaned or, if they're older and then never had a bath or something like that, which is what happened to baby no name. So just make sure that you give them a light scrub during every single bath, and you shouldn't have an issue with it. What temp in my apartment? The temp in my apartment never goes below 72, but I rarely use my AC much anyways. I've been using nighttime heat bulbs, so should I stop using them till around winter time? Again, if your temps are below 65 degrees Fahrenheit at night in the tank, then that is the only reason or only time you should use nighttime heating, and you should never use a heat bulb. You should use or a basking bulb. You should use a ceramic heat emitter, which is, it does not produce light, it just produces heat. So also make sure that it's the right wattage because you can get them in multiple different wattages. So you want to have the right wattage for your tank. How do I get my bearded dragons to eat more greens? He eats around 2 collard greens each day, and that's it. No carrots, no squash, nothing. He only likes collard greens and dubia roaches. Well, collard greens are great. Um, I would not feed carrots more than just like occasionally because carrots can actually upset their stomach and they have actually caused beta dragons to throw up. So don't feed those all the time. I usually only mix my baby's salad occasionally with something extra in it, but it's usually just the leafy greens because my babies will pick all the other stuff out of them. I don't know why all of them do that, but that's what they do. So I will feed just the leafy greens, which is usually collards or bok choy. Sometimes mustard greens are the other ones, but usually what I use is collards and bok choy. Okay, so I will feed those. Then during the middle of the day, like after they've eaten their salad, I'll feed them like some veggies or something else. Um, but you can kind of have a schedule like that. And if they're not eating their greens, depending on how old they are, remember they only need to have the adult dragon diet when they are 2 years old. It's like they switch when it comes to like a year to 10 months to a year, actually, not 2 years. But I have a whole video on what the adult dragon diet is. So if they are an adult dragon and they are not eating their greens, you want to make sure that you try to just feed the greens until they eat it. I mean, that sounds harsh, but it's really not because bearded dragons can actually last a while without food. And if they are hungry enough, they will eat those greens. You also have to be mindful that they like certain greens more than other ones. So if they're struggling with eating that type of green, try another green, you know? My bearded dragon keeps attacking his reflection. I covered the sides and the back of the cage, but I can't cover the front. What should I do? Uh, Usually that doesn't happen with the front of the tank. It could depend on where you put the heat bulb as well. So the way that my tanks are set up, I don't have the heat bulb kind of like in the middle. So here's like the side, right? I don't have it right in the middle. I have it towards the side in the back. Not enough to burn the side, but towards the back. And that way there isn't much reflection on the front. So you can move the heat bulb a little bit over and see if that helps. If not, contact me on my Instagram with pictures and all of that of your setup, and I can try to help you from there. How do you control the humidity in the tank? We are having a hard time getting the humidity below 40. We have even taken out the water dish to no luck. A big unit dehumidifier. So you put that near the tank, and usually it fixes the problem right away. Some people try to use like if you look on Amazon, there's like the EverDry dehumidifier for their tank. But the issue with these is that those are meant for small enclosed spaces, like a guitar case or like a cabinet or something like that. So I would not recommend those in your tank, but a big unit dehumidifier right near the tank should do it. Also, little things such as filling a sock with uncooked rice helps as well. And also having the correct heating, because sometimes that's an issue as well. I have two bearded dragons. They are both juveniles. I would like to know if I can handle them with a harness to let them walk around and not get lost. Yeah, I don't see why not. As long as you have, it's not like choking them or it's just like a harness, not a collar, because you should never put a collar around a bearded dragon. Make sure you have a harness and make sure it's not too tight or agitating them because you don't want to stress them out. Question, I was able to get the deworm kit that you suggested. But since he's only 40 grams, should I give him a weekly dosage or should I just do one big dose? Um, so with the you shouldn't be giving weekly doses. I don't know how long weekly is. Um, with a tiny dragon, I would not recommend giving them the full dose of it because you have the high dose and the low dosage where it's like two dosages. The high dosage, I have only done that when the bearded dragon was showing severe signs of it, worms. And for example, my rescue right now, I gave him a high dosage of dewormer, and I'm going to give him a high dosage of the other type of dewormer as well. There's one for pinworms and one for coccidia. So I'm going to give him two high dosages, but he's also full grown. And I have made sure that you give him a lot of water and stuff like that because it can cause a lot of issues to their kidneys if you aren't flushing, it out with water. So for a tiny baby, I would do the two dosage one. Um, yeah, I would just definitely do the two dosage one on that and make sure you are giving them lots of water and things with water, like hornworms or lots of greens, stuff like that. Watermelon is great. Just anything to get the water in them so it can kind of just like hydrate it and get that out of, you just don't want to have issues with their kidneys and other issues like that because it can make them sicker if you give them too much. How can I tell the age of my bearded dragon? Um, mm, this one, this one is hard. Some people go by the length of them. There are things on Google if you just search it that says, "Oh, here's a guesstimate," and it is just a guesstimate because bearded dragons grow at different lengths, different paces. So they usually measure from head to tail. It it's like really hard to tell, especially once they're full grown. It's like almost impossible. But you can kind of look at their mobility and the way that they move around to see their age. Older dragons, like old dragons, I'm talking like 10 years and up dragons. Those usually are like not a little more stiff than the younger dragons. But baby babies, like this big or so, are usually a few weeks. They're not a month yet until they're like, on this long. It depends. It's really hard to tell. But you can go on Google and look at the guesstimate length charts, and it can help you kind of get a guess or an idea of how old they are. Okay, somebody said they don't have instructions if your beauty is less than 50 grams, and I'm guessing that's for the dewormer. Actually, they do. It just depends on which one you bought. So if you're looking at beardeddragon.co, that website, they have ones for adult dragons and they have ones for baby dragons. The baby dragons ones is the one you need. I have made the mistake of accidentally buying the baby dragon ones when I needed the adult one, so I had to go back and buy the right one. We all do it. You just have to read in the description. They tell you. So you just got to read in there and find the right one. Okay. How can I tell the gender of my dragon? You actually look at the back of their tail. Like you have to lift up their tail and kind of look at their butt. Weird. But if there's two lumps, it's a male. If there's one lump, it's a female. There are actually pictures on Google that can help you with that to guide it. And if you are still having trouble, you can just send me a picture of it on my Instagram. Be sure that you're actually lifting the tail up correctly though, because some people just kind of show me the back of their dragon. I can't tell unless you actually lift the tail up so it kind of shows the lumps. Okay. I want to get a rescue bearded dragon, but I don't know where to find them. How did you come across your rescues? Actually, my rescues were either somebody contacted me because somebody relinquished a dragon, which is where um, Aether came from, which is my rescue baby. Nyx, she was actually in a pet store, but she was a rescue. She was relinquished to the pet store by someone who was did not care for her properly, didn't know what to do, neglected the poor thing, and relinquished them to the pet store. So it wasn't exactly a for sale dragon. It was more of a adoption fee type thing. So um, you can find them. I don't want to say off of Craigslist because a lot of those babies are really sick, but you can try to look for rescues around you. Like search, like do an internet search. Start searching for rescues. Sometimes pet stores even have babies that have been relinquished and are rescues, and they don't have like they're not for sale, but they have like an adoption fee or whatever that's really cheap, which actually goes to help other rescues and help animals and stuff like that. So it's not for profit for them, but it's more of helping them to house other rescues type of thing. But anyways, so I would go on a search for that. Um, okay. Okay, how can I get my baby to eat greens? So when you say baby, I'm not sure if you mean like they're all babies, they're all cute, or if you mean like a baby, like a juvenile. So juveniles, you want to offer it every single day, but they should be eating a majority of bugs. If they are an adult, then they should be eating mostly salad. I have a whole video on how to get your baby to eat greens. I would go watch that for more tips because I actually have video examples. Um, but as I've said before in this video, you if they're an adult dragon and they are around a year, around that time you want to start getting them to the adult dragon diet. And if they're not eating it, then you want to feed them the greens, keep trying different greens until they eat it, type of thing, before you feed bugs. So if they're hungry enough, they will eat the greens. I have had a week and a half standoff with my Nixie babe. She would not eat greens. I had to go through so many different greens for her to eat them, and she loves collards. Collards and bok choy are about the only greens she actually will eat. Should I get my bearded dragon a collar? No, you should not be putting anything around their neck. I've got one dragon that belongs to my son. When we got him, he hadn't had the best care. He's come a long way from where he was, but he's got broke some broke toes and a few that's turned sideways. What should I do? Um, it's hard to give you advice without seeing it myself. So I would go to my Instagram, Lizard Guru underscore, I believe it is. Yeah, Lizard Guru, one word underscore, um, and go send me pictures of it. But it sounds like you really need a herp vet. Um, if they have been broken and they, you know, healed that way, then there's not much you can do. Because my Nixie babe, she had a broken arm and a broken leg, and like they're kind of weirdly shaped now because nobody cared for it and it just healed that way. So there's nothing you can do other than be careful with them. But send me pictures and I'll see if I can give you any advice from there. Should I get my bearded dragon a collar? No, you should not put anything around their neck. I signed up for your Facebook group, but after a week it still says pending. What's going on? Thanks. I only accept people on my Facebook group on Sundays. If you have answered all three of the questions as it states in there, then you are fine. If you did not answer all three questions, then you are automatically declined because I have a swarm of people asking to be in that group, and a lot of them they don't follow the directions, so that makes me know that they aren't going to follow the rules of the group. They aren't going to look at the care guides. They aren't going to follow my advice, so I decline them immediately. If you answered all three of those questions, then you are likely to get accepted, but I only accept people on Sundays because it helps control the influx of people that are joining that group. And also, I have a welcome post every Sunday that tells them, it has a message for new people to read, and it tells you to read the care guide, read the rules, look at something else. I mean, it just tells you to look at all the files, make sure that you're not being mean, rude, anything like that. So if you have been in there and pending for a week, then you will likely get accepted tomorrow. If you did not answer the questions, then you are declined. I have a 5-month-old dragon. How many crickets should I feed him? A 5-month-old dragon. So depending on their size, you want to make sure that you are not feeding anything that is longer than the width between their eyes. You can feed them as much as they can eat within a 15-minute span. Um, I wouldn't do the breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing because some babies can put down like 30, 40, 60 of those things in one sitting. So I would only feed them once during that day, but for 5 months, they are still in the juvenile dragon diet and you are feeding bugs every single day. So feed them as much as they can eat within a 15-minute span. I would not, however, do the whole dump in the tank and then fend for the self and try to catch up with them. Don't do that because crickets can actually bite. They can cause infections. So I would feed them one at a time, type of thing, like with the tongs, drop them in them, eat, drop, eat, drop, eat, drop, eat, not dump and let them eat like that because that causes a lot of issues. One of my baby's tails had to be docked because of that happening. That poor baby. Okay. 80 crickets, you shouldn't feed up to 80 crickets actually. Um, at what age should I go 80% greens? So when they are around a year old, um, they should be eating mostly greens. You're right. So I actually have the whole video on the proper adult dragon diet where I go over tips, um, all of the information, the proper yeah, like I said, the proper diet, what you should be feeding, what you should not be feeding. So they should start eating that around 10 months to a year old. Okay, how many hours should I keep my 4-month-old Beardy's lights on? I'm currently doing 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Is that okay? So, this one is widely debated in the bearded dragon community. The way I do it is in the summer, I have about like 12 to 14 hours of heat and light because they are more active in the summer. In the winter, I have about 10 hours. So keep it on around there. So the 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. is a little long. I would cut it off like an hour, an hour less, like around 8 p.m. Um, but I mean, it's not gonna hurt them necessarily, but I think an hour less in that aspect would be okay. What age can I tell the gender of my bearded dragon. So this, it depends on how fast they grow, honestly. Usually you can tell the age of the dragon around a year old. Sometimes it's sooner, depending on if they grow really quick. Sometimes it's not. So some people can't even tell the age of their dragon until a year and a half to 2 years. It depends on the growth of your dragon. Okay. What's the max length they can get? I actually, I'm not sure because there are so many different size dragons. I don't think there's a specific max length. I mean, I'm sure there's like a beardy out there that has the record for the longest length dragon, just like there's a dragon that lived longer than the rest of them, around like maxing out around 22 years old. So, I mean, 22 years old is like you got to have proper, I mean, really like excellent care for that to happen. It's not average for them to live that long, but you get my point. I don't really, I'm not sure on that one. My beardy has wrinkles. What does this mean? Bearded dragons have wrinkles. Bearded dragons have chubs. You know, it's normal. Um, what should I do if my bearded dragon has ants in his cage and won't go away? Oh, I have never had this problem. I'm not sure why they have ants in their cage. I would really, really recommend getting like, putting them in a different setup or something until you can fix that. It could be something is attracting the ants to that area. I would also get a um, what is it called? Pest control to come in and spray around your house. I would take the beardy out while they're spraying and wait a few hours before you put them back in there. But that is something that is not good. You definitely need pest control. You should find what it is that is causing that, whether it's a stanky carpet, the greens that you're leaving in there. If you're leaving the greens in too long, which you should not leave your greens in too long. I only leave my greens in for the day. At night, I toss. I toss the extra greens. There's nothing in there that would attract ants. I would not, I would definitely try to figure that out, get a new setup, something. Send me pictures of what your setup's like, and I guess the ants that are coming in there so I can see and try to help you. I have a full grown dragon that freaks out when my robot vacuum starts cleaning my house. Do you think it's the infrared light sensors that he sees that freak him out? Um, no. I think it's because of the noise and they just don't like it. I don't think it has anything to do with the infrared heat sensors. Okay. Have you ever clipped the quick of the bearded dragon when clipping their nails? No, I have not. If I did, I would use, what is it? It's a type, you can find it on beardeddragon.co. It's like Silvadine or like, it's an ointment cream that you put on issues like that, but I would really go to a herb vet to try to get something better for it because that's really not good and it's like really, really, really painful for them. Um, Does weighing my bearded dragon help tell the age when they aren't grown up yet? Because my beardy is a female and she isn't grown up, but I have no idea how old she is. Sometimes the weight can tell how old they are, but again, it's just a guesstimate. Because it's really hard to tell if that bearded dragons grow and get thicker and chunkier at different rates. It depends on what you're feeding, it depends on their genetics. It has a lot of factors that go into it, so anything you find on that will be a guesstimate. What should I do with my bearded dragon if you can't offer bugs? Uh, I'm not sure why you can't offer bugs. They need bugs, whether they're an adult or a juvenile. So I would try to figure that out. because they need bugs. Um, if if it is because they are like they have MBD and can't catch their bugs and they can't move really well, try a slurry. I have a whole video on how to create a slurry. You can also hand feed them. You can, give them like tongue feed them or whatever, like let them take it type of thing. But they need bugs regardless. Should I get another beardy if I house them together? No, you should not. Okay. All right. How can I get my beardie to drink water? I tried everything and she is not drinking. Bearded dragons don't usually drink water. They can't actually see the water that's in the dish, but you can try to, like baths, sometimes they drink in there. You can also drop water on their nose to help them that way. Alrighty, no problem. Okay. What is your Facebook's group name? It is Lizard Guru Reptile Lovers Group. My adult female dragon today started waving her tail like a cat, and I don't know why. When they wave their tail, I mean, I don't know, is it like kind of like this? It shouldn't be up like this, but sometimes they move their tail when they feel something uncomfortable. For example, my Nixie pup, she has a lot of shed going on her tail right now, and when anything, like her like if the fan is blowing on it or if she just like moves it in a weird direction, she keeps like doing this because it feels uncomfortable. So it could be that something is uncomfortable, something's touching it. If it's sheddy, they don't like it. If they're starting to shed, that could also be happening. But if they're like going like this and like waving it real slick type of thing, that's a threaten. That's a I want to fight type of thing. So you can send me a video of it on my Instagram and I can try to help you figure out what it is. Okay. I have a 3 month old that refuses to eat any greens except broccoli. You shouldn't feed broccoli at all. That's calcium binder. You should not feed broccoli. um, so since the baby is so young, they should be eating a majority of bugs anyways. What you normally do with juveniles is you offer greens in the morning. You're gonna have to try to get them used to that and try a bunch of different greens until they eat it. But you also want to feed them separately. So you have the greens in the morning, then you move to like the afternoon, evening, no, mostly afternoon, and you feed them their bugs. So try to have that in a scheduled, in a schedule, and it should work. I just got my bearded dragon 2 days ago, and he was orange when I first got him, but when I put him in the cage, he turned black and gray. What happened? You can send me images of what you're talking about, but the gray part is usually that they're about to shed. The black, when you put them in the tank, that's it could be stress or it could be them trying to suck in more heat. So I would try to make sure that your temps are right. You can also, of course, send me pictures of what you're seeing so I can help you from there, and also send me pictures of the setup because that is very, very important. There could also be things around the tank that is agitating the baby, like if a cat, a dog, something like that that's agitating them. Is watermelon okay to feed beardies as a treat? Yes, it is. Hi, where are the babies? My babies, Nyx is over here. My other babies are in there. The two mystery babes are in there along with Aether, which is in another room altogether across the hall. How long do you personally keep your bearded dragon? out for? I'm wondering if I'm keeping mine out for too long. That all depends on how cold it is. Like here I have air conditioning, but I've shut off the air conditioning in both of the baby's rooms. So I keep them out for as long as they show signs that they're still warmed up. I also have a temp gun, and I gradually keep you know checking their temps. If they get below 80, then I will put them back in the tank. Also, if they're starting to get dark and they're not moving as much, I will immediately put them back in the tank because that means that they're too cold. If they're still running around, running, I let them do their thing, but usually they'll stop because they're cold. So that is your indicator to put them back in the tank. Usually it maxes out around 30 minutes in the air conditioning. Even though I shut it off in here, there's still air conditioning coming in through under the doors. If it's outside, I usually max that out around 30 minutes to an hour because they get really stressed outside with, cars and birds and all of that. So I kind of like watch them. I keep a careful eye and I let them tell me when they're ready to go back in the tank, but it's never over an hour. So I'm going through vacation and my baby is doing a whole body shed. Will he be fine and shed properly without me giving him a bath? Uh, Usually yes. Baths are really important for a shedding baby. Whoever is watching your baby, tell them to give them a quick soak. A little spritz on the shed areas can help too. Um, but I would definitely try to give them a bath because they get really agitated and baths help soothe them. They also help moisturize the area and have a healthy shed. My beardy My beardy's top of the head turns black when I take him out. He's fine. Should I be worried? Um, well, you mean like the top of the head or the beard? Um, Either way, when you take them out and they start to get darker, they're usually it's usually because of stress and also because that they are sucking in more heat because darker colors suck in more heat. It absorbs the heat. So, I mean, I think they're okay. Just keep a careful, eye on them. You hold, or like make sure you're holding them if they're super agitated, or like have them on your leg or something, or in like a secured little carrier so no predators get to them. Because I have had a bird swoop down and try to take the baby, but I was holding her and I just kind of, I actually smacked the bird right in the face. I was like, nope. So you want to be careful about that. Hi, you may have already answered the question, but how do you feel about waxworms? I'm trying to give my baby girl a variety. Waxworms are great as a treat, an occasional food type of thing. Waxworms, I usually give my babies some, like every time I go to like uh, Petco or PetSmart real quick to like get some bugs because that's the only place that I have access to them without ordering them online. So like if I'm near one, because I rarely go into those stores, but if I'm near one, then I'll go in there and be like, ah, I have waxworms now. So I do it occasionally, which is like for me, since I don't have access to them, it's like oh, every few months. But you can feed it like every couple weeks if you want. I just wouldn't feed it every single day. If you have a rescue baby and one that is underweight, these are great to put on weight for your baby because they have a lot of fat in them. So occasionally they're okay as a treat. How old does a beardy go to? How old do they get? I would say it depends on the care. The oldest known dragon to live was 22 years old. On average, they live to be around like 10 to 14 years old in captivity, and in the wild, I think it's like up to 8 years old and below. But it just depends on the care. But I will say this, it is more common for beardies to die because of improper care before the age of 1, and it is a sad fact that I am trying to change. Mine eat live mice once a month, but they eat lots of greens and bugs. You should never, ever, ever feed your bearded dragon a full-grown mice, like mouse. It's not, you can cause a lot of issues with that. You should only ever feed your bearded dragon pinky mice, which are the little pink babies, not furries, or not, they're called fuzzies, not fuzzies, which are like the older baby with like fur on them, not mice. None of it. You can make them very sick. You should not do that. You should feed them pinkies occasionally, if at all. Like some beardies don't like pinkies, but for gravid beardies, egg bearing females, these are okay. Like, like every 2 weeks, once a week, sometimes I've seen people feed them for beardies that have eggs inside of them to give them extra protein. It actually helps the process move along, and it's very good for them. But if you don't have a gravid female, I would say like once every 2 weeks or so if you are trying to make that into your diet. I have an 150-watt bulb for my 75-gallon beardy tank, but it only reaches the like 80s. What is going on? It's probably the distance that you have it. So your basking spot, you might want to try to raise the basking spot, or if your bulb is like on a stand, put it directly on the mesh. Um, it also depends on what type of bulb you have. Some people have spotlights and some people have basking bulbs. You want a basking bulb. Spotlights center that heat in one little hot spot and you can actually end up burning your baby. You want a basking bulb because basking bulbs kind of, the heat goes out this way, not just down. How much should I feed my babies? I've had them for a month. I think they're 2 months old, about 7-inch nose to tip of tail. So you have juvenile babies. So these babies, you want to like offer a salad every single day. Excuse me. And you also want to feed them bugs every single day, and you want to make sure that you have a variety of bugs that you're feeding. You can feed like one bug this day, like another bug this day, like swap like every other day. You feed a different bug, or this week you feed this type of bug, next week you feed this type of bug. But you want to have a variety because all of them have different nutritional values, and have different benefits for them. But if you, for example, say today, you feed them their salad, then you go on to the feeding the bugs. You should feed them as much as they can eat within that 15-minute span. And sometimes babies put down to like 60 bugs, 30 bugs. It depends on them. So if you have like little tiny, tiny, tiny babies like you're talking about, they're usually only going to put down like 30. Around that time, when they get older and start growing, they're going to put down the larger amounts. But remember, as soon as they hit around 10 months to a year old, you should swap and mostly feed them greens and only feed them bugs 2 to 3 days a week max. Okay, because they should be eating a majority of greens when they are that old. Alrighty, you guys, I am actually getting to where I have to cut off. I'm going to answer one more question and then I'm going to end the live video. So, oh Lord, why does my bearded dragon keep trying to run from me? So these babies, they can be very active. They can also be very scared. It depends how you're approaching them, because say if they're on the floor and you're over them, they're going to try to run from you because there's like they have a perennial or it's a parietal. They have a parietal eye on the top of their head that is like a shadow and heat sensor type of thing. So they can actually, it's called a third eye, so they can actually see that above them and it freaks them out. It's their way of telling if there's predators above them or, getting proper heat type of thing. So it depends how you approach them. It also depends, you know, how you're approaching them in the tank. So if you come up to them real quick in the tank, they're likely going to run away or like get wide eyes, like, what are you doing? Type of thing. So you want to be real slow. Babies like slow movements. And I also talk to them while I'm doing it. I usually say, I've been saying the same things to my babies when I approach them. hey, sweet girl, I'm gonna pick you up now, or hey, sweet boy, I'm gonna pick you up now. And I don't know if they understand it, but it seems like they're expecting what I'm about to do when I talk to them and tell them what I'm about to do. So I just kind of like, hey, I'm gonna pick you up now, sweet girl. Ooh, we're gonna get the legs. Ooh, we're gonna get the feet. Talk to them, be slow, be calm, calm movements. So there we go, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I will try to get to some of these questions later, and I will also like comment on them individually when I go back and look at all of the comments. But thanks so much for watching, you guys. It was great having you. I really enjoyed this, and I'm going to end it now. I will also be doing a live video next month. I'm going to try to do a live video once every single month. So I will be back next month. This is going to happen again. Don't worry. You guys can keep asking questions. You guys can also ask all of your questions to my social media, because this is the thing, guys. I've never said this anywhere else. I only answer all of those questions on Wednesdays unless it pops up and it is like something urgent. I usually only answer them on Wednesdays because I get hundreds and thousands of questions every single week. So I try to have a specific day where I sit there all day answering questions on all of and I go through all my social media. So I will do this again. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. And as always, from my family to yours, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Mwah! Hug your babies for me.